All right, hey everyone. Today I've got an exciting topic for you all. We're going to talk about 1031 exchanges. You probably already know, but one of the greatest benefits of real estate, other than generating wealth, is the tax advantages that it offers. And 1031 is actually the number of the code section that this benefit comes from. But, unlike the rest of the code, it seems like every real estate investor has heard this at one point. It's the one code that everyone can recite. So today we're going to talk about exactly what advantages it offers and some of the basics on how you can achieve the positive tax results from this. So first, I'm just going to talk about an example to kind of illustrate how this works in real life. So let's just assume that you purchase something for $100,000. And for that purchase, you're able to get an 80% loan to value. So you're putting down $20,000 and you're taking on a loan of $80,000. And now the market has been good. It hasn't lost any value. It's actually increased. And you've decided that either you don't want to own this type of property before, you don't want to own this specific property, or you're just ready to go on to the next bigger asset class. Whatever the reason may be, you're now looking at the property has increased in value, and let's say it's increased to $200,000, which in today's market, if you've held it for long enough, is not totally out of the realm of possibilities. So then you've identified another property that you would like to acquire. And let's say the cost of this property is $500,000. So you're selling something that's now worth $200,000. And just as a quick note in case you haven't seen it before, FMV is fair market value. We'll probably use that as we kind of continue through the video, so keep that in mind. So let's look at some of the quick numbers here. Relinquished, another important term to talk about. This refers to the property you already own and you're selling, the one that you want to upgrade. So we've already discussed the fair market value is now $200,000. Let's just keep it simple and let's assume you have not paid down any of the debt or you've refinanced, but essentially, whatever the reason, the debt amount is still that original $80,000 for simplicity. So now you have equity of $120,000 in this property. If you were to sell this property, and let's kind of go through that so we can kind of see why we're working so hard here to get a 1031 accomplished. So if you were to sell this property for the $200,000 it's worth, we'll ignore selling costs, we're keeping it simple, and you paid $100,000, well then, again, we're ignoring depreciation and some other tax benefits, but on a very surface level look, you've got a gain here of $100,000 if you sell. Typically, the tax rate as it stands now is a potential 20% capital gains rate. So this means as soon as you sell, $20,000 is gone right off the top. It's no longer yours. So if you think about what is happening here, now your net, you only have $80,000 to invest in a new property. So let's go back and let's look at if we do a 1031 exchange. So again, selling something for $200,000, we have debt of $80,000, and we have equity of $120,000. We've identified a replacement property for $500,000, and we know after going to the bank, we can get a loan of $380,000 on this one, a little less than 80% loan to value. Well, it just turns out that we need equity of $120,000, which is exactly what we have sitting over here in the property we're trying to sell. So if we can take all of this and put it right back into this property without paying tax, then we've essentially been able to acquire a larger property than we may have otherwise been able to do. Because if you'll remember on the last slide that we had, there's a tax of $20,000 if we were to sell this property. So if that were the case, you'd only have $100,000 to invest. That means you got to come up with that somewhere here. You either have to increase your debt, which obviously would change your cash flow on the property, put you a little more at leverage, or you have to come up with the cash somewhere else. So the 1031 allows you to essentially defer that tax, defer being different than really, avoiding it forever. So eventually, most of the time, that'll come due. But in the meantime, it allows you to grow your assets and your wealth without having to pay that tax to the government. It allows you to keep reinvesting that and putting it to work. So that's the main advantage of using a 1031 exchange. And now the question really becomes, how do you actually execute it? What are the rules behind the 1031? So real simply put, there's two big requirements. One, you have 45 days to identify the property that you're going to use as a replacement. And the 45 days starts counting once you've sold the asset. So you sell the property that you own currently, you have 45 days to identify the next one. The next big deadline is 180 days. And very important, don't confuse this with 6 months. A lot of people say 6 months in their head. It's not 6 months, it's 180 days. A lot of people have missed exchanges by a day or two just because of thinking about it that way. But essentially you have 180 days to close on your replacement property. And if you're able to do that and you put all of your equity in from the relinquished property into the replacement, you'll be able to receive some of the tax advantages that are associated with a 1031. So thanks for watching. I hope you got something out of this. If you have something in the works right now you're thinking of upgrading, contact your CPA or advisor and do it sooner rather than later. You don't want to find out after you've already started the process that something was missed. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next video.